Tyler. I'm filling in for Scott and your other leaders here, which would be, who is it? Ryan and Vice Chair Darren Watkins are unable to attend. So before we get started, I just want to let you guys know this meeting is an hour. 1 hour is our time. We're going to respect everybody's time, if possible. Is it possible? You had a bell on this one. So, this is my first time doing this for Scott, and so if I make some errors somewhere, just count as love. Let's move to voting on the approval of the minutes from the last meeting in November. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
All right, Mr. Bob, move the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second, but we need to make a little tweak, I think.
Okay.
Julia, if you look on second page,
Okay,
under the third sentence, or third line,
okay,
it says renewable energy sources and advise the committee begin talking this. I think it should be taking this into consideration
okey doke.
and not talking.
And then just in the future, if you all notice anything like that prior to meeting, I would greatly appreciate it so that I could give you a clean copy by the time the meeting comes around. But thank you for that, and I will correct that.
Other than that, I second.
All right, Mr. Dana seconded. Julia?
Thank you.
All right, so let's, thank you members for voting on the minutes. Now let's, move on to Ms. Morgan's update.
Hi there, Happy New Year, everybody. I just have one update. We met yesterday, we did our superintendent search workshop. We had 40 applicants for the position. Ray and Associates brought forward 10 for consideration. The board spent an entire day going through the process of reviewing the various candidates and came up with 5 semifinalists. The board will be interviewing the semifinalists in 2 weeks via Zoom, unless that changes. After which we will reduce it to 3 candidates. Those candidates will come to Lee County and they will have meetings with people like this committee and other committees. So that's the process and that's where we are. Any questions?
Who makes the final decision?
Board.
Board? She does.
1 of 7.
We like them.
I will say that the current superintendent, the interim, did submit an application, but he was not selected.
So everybody from over.
I think we have some pretty good candidates. And one actually is what I would call a hybrid because he really comes from the ITS. That's his passion, but he has, oh gosh, at one point he worked for, as chief of staff for one of the large California districts, and then he was chief of staff in DC for a while, like for schools. So he's sort of gone back and forth, Air Force Academy, National War College. Everybody else is, you know, a lifelong public educator.
So the idea is when is the idea to have a new superintendent?
Well, we will select the new superintendent by mid-February. But the assumption is that person will not be on site until the end of the fiscal year. Because that person will be on contract somewhere. So we're hoping July 1st. Okay.
All right, any public comments? Public comments? We have someone here who wants to introduce themselves.
Yes.
All right, Tinkerbell.
Yeah. I just wanted to introduce myself to the group for those who I don't know. My name is Frederick Ross. Started a couple months ago as the executive director of our operations and planning. So that covers construction as well as maintenance and planning. I was previously, and actually did presentations to this group as the director of procurement. previously and then left the district and now I'm back. But I'm glad to be working with Scott Rickenbacker and his team. They have a great team that they get a lot done, as you probably already know. Look forward to working with you to continue to see how we can improve on our capital expenditure and our construction projects. So first, appreciate you being a part of this group. I know how important it is to receive this feedback, and we do take it. We do feel it's important and take heed to what we hear here. So we just look forward to continue working.
I understand Mr. Ringland,
That's right.
has invited Daniel Bowl for Bowl Renewables here today to give a presentation. We're gonna have our presentation.
I'd like to introduce Dan. Been a friend for 2 years. We have a similar thought process about energy and what's coming down the pike. And Dan is a third owner of a very energetic, progressive company that is designing, managing, developing every part of big solar projects throughout the country. And I think it'd be really good for the Lee County School Board to understand what's happening outside, with other communities. And our biggest fear coming forward is what we've seen in construction is that inflation. So we know that's coming in energy. We want to take an opportunity to avoid that over the next 5-10 years. Introduce Dan.
Right, and I have a PowerPoint. It's about 62 slides, take 2 hours to go through. Just the one slide.
What do you have on?
Oh,
Plug this in.
you can't put that on that, that's where the camera is. We have a laptop over there in the corner.
This won't take very long.
What's my number?
931-204.
All right, like Russ said, my name is Dan Bull. I am managing partner for Bow Renewables. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to present today. It's been a pleasure. Knowing Russ over the last couple of years, we met in a professional capacity, and then basically he talked me into planting trees on Saturday morning. And Bow's been a contributor to future forestry and some other endeavors of Russ over the years. Quick agenda. Just want to discuss our company briefly. We were founded here in Lee County. We'll go through the purpose of today's presentation, I think, from our perspective, but definitely want to make it interactive to what you guys are looking for. I wasn't sure about the education level on solar and the state of the industry and some of the different project types, so I just threw a quick slide in to go through some of the basics, show some of the different ways you can actually get solar power generated for your facilities. And then probably one of the more interesting and intricate aspects of solar is everybody focuses on the equipment, but it's really the contracting, the financial mechanisms, and the cost savings that I think attracts most of the attention and takes up most of my time. So we're gonna go through a little bit of that, and then there's a project we're working on in New Jersey, so I threw a few pictures up there just to talk briefly about that portfolio. And then, we're looking to, to help you guys out, maybe doing some energy evaluation. So, I think they put a slide in there about why solar with Bo. A little bit about us. We were founded in 2018. We all came from TerraSmart. The three managing partners used to work for the local racking and the local racking manufacturer. So we decided in 2018 that we wanted to expand our reach as far as solar energy. So we went out and started a development company and a consulting firm. We do have offices now throughout the country. Our main offices are here, Chicago, and then Scranton, PA. We recently added a very talented environmental due diligence team. And then we have employees spread throughout the country. We're more of a distributed asset as far as the way we approach. We don't have a lot of brick and mortar buildings anymore. So we have employees here, Illinois, PA, New Jersey, Ohio, Colorado. We go as far as New Mexico, and we're starting to expand our footprint into New York. Overall, we're 30 plus professional employees. That number changes every day. We just got an accepted offer as I was sitting down. And our employees are all, I say, professionals. So we don't actually do the installation. We do more of the design and the development, the due diligence, the environmental perspectives, working on projects that are ground mounted or impact the land. You have to do take permitting, ecosystem evaluation, and then we also do the actual management of the construction installation, and we're adding commissioning and onboarding of the actual power to the facility. So currently we've developed over 400 megawatts of solar assets throughout the country. We've managed over 1 gigawatt of solar installations. And then, the big push for us now is just kind of expanding our project and our footprint. So we've got over 400 megawatts of new solar leases and, projects under development in some phase. These are just a list of the services we offer. I'm not gonna read that list, and it gets longer every day. So why are we here? As Russ said, inflation's a real thing. Energy pricing is going up, energy consumption is going up. They anticipate the grid's gonna expand by 3 over the next 10 years, so everybody's using computers. Everything's electric. There's goals set statewide. Maybe not so much here in Florida yet, but places like Colorado are putting 1 million electrical vehicles on the grid by 2040. So the demand on that power is going up, which means it's gonna start overstressing infrastructure. So, these cost changes, the way that utilities operate, the rate's gonna go up. It never goes down. If you look back to 1913 and just take an average inflation rate, you're about 1.5%. And if you look at, the current spend that Lee County schools had on their electric bill, into June 2021, it was over $15 million. You just take that 1.5% and you expand it out the next 15 years, you're at $19 million. If you look at what some experts are predicting for electrical rate increase at the utility level, particularly with the co-ops, you're seeing a 2 to 4% increase year over year. If you take that math and do it over the same 15-year period, your $15 million bill is $23 million. So there's significant burn going out to electric bills. And why are we here? We just want to help. We do full due diligence packages. We present proposals and cost savings, economic measures that we think would be beneficial to, a facility, a program, a school district, and we want to work with your team to provide sort of the best results so that you guys really make a decision and see what works for you. And for me, it's personal. That's my son. So, he goes to Pine Island. Russ probably recognizes that photo. He was out planting trees with us one day. So, my son's 7. He's in 2nd grade. Obviously, I want to provide, a good atmosphere for him. I want the money spent by the school district to go back to being reinvested into the students, and into the teachers, and into technology, and things that will benefit him and then, future generations. So for me, it is important. I do have a kid in the Lee County schools. This is the basics of how solar works. Does anybody not really understand the overall concept? Basically, received light into the panels. That power is received in the DC capacity, so it's run to an inverter. Converts it to AC, because our grid is primarily run on AC, although they are talking about converting it to DC at some point. And then once that power is converted to AC, you can feed your house, and then any excess power will go to the grid. That's like a simplified residential view of it. And that would be similar to what we'd be looking at with the school system. So from there, there's a variety of project types. And I just wanted to throw this up because I think it's important when you're thinking about your energy needs and you're thinking about solar. a lot's changing and there's a lot of different ways to get it. And, there's the traditional way of doing it as far as roof mounted systems. I think everybody's familiar with those. In Florida, carports have actually become pretty popular. I mean, at condos, they like them because they already have premier parking for shaded spots. So you're gonna spend $400,000 on a carport, now you can spend $400,000 and get power. And then here's the bigger projects that Russ was referencing. Those are called ground mount or utility scale. That's a lot of what's taking place in the industry. The industry's migrated to big business, so they want to make the power plants bigger, they're more commercially viable. They're trying to squeeze every penny out of it, so the ground mounted system is just a bigger way, most economic way to produce solar. Any questions on that? Any further expansion? And then here's the fun stuff. So financing, I think, traditional way to do it is, somebody like the Lee County School District would just self-fund. You can, do a raise, bond, however you wanted to do it, and invest the money in the equipment and the construction. We haven't had the ability to run the analysis on all the schools to see what paybacks were, but, standard return on investment comes 6 to 8 years, and you start generating actual profitability off that energy field. But there's some things, if you're a public, entity, you can't take advantage of the tax credit because you don't pay taxes. So, that's one option. Another option is just traditional bank loan. It requires a high amount of credit, also eats up loan capacity. So if you guys were trying to build a school and fund all the solar, that could be really hard and demanding on your credit rating. So, that's something that you could do, but if you do take a loan and you pay points on the loan, and that also comes off of your profitability. And then the third is what I would say is the most popular way that these things are being financed now. Companies like mine partner with either big banks like Chase or big energy developers like Energy or LightSource BP, and they will actually fund and finance the entire operation, zero money out of pocket, and then that includes the design, the equipment, the actual installation, and they will maintain the facility for the life of it. And what you get with that is, there's performance requirements associated with the contract. And if the energy company has to achieve those, or they pay a fine to you guys because you have to buy power from the grid. And then, companies like that can capitalize on the solar tax credit. So we can take 10 to 26%. So, any questions on the financing? Any questions at all? And here's just an example. There's a bunch of New Jersey schools converting to solar power. We're working on a portfolio that has 12 total, 2 different school districts. They vary in size as far as each individual school system or school size. So overall for the Jackson School District, we are providing 4.1 megawatt hours of power, and that's spread across 7 different buildings. One of them's actually the maintenance building, pretty low consumer. When you break that average out there, each system size is about 334 kilowatt hours. And then, in East Brunswick, we've got 5 schools for a total of 1.4. And, each school is averaging out about 279. And the reason that I wanted to throw that up there is, I know that Russ had mentioned we do big projects, but, these are pretty small projects, but they're also super interesting, and they're direct financial benefits to the school, and they function and they work. So just kind of saying that when you're thinking about it, it doesn't have to be great. A couple hundred kW to offset some energy consumption can go a long way. All right, well, we did take a look at a couple of the schools, but I just threw one up for time purposes. This is just your Island Coast High School. It's one of the biggest consumers in your portfolio. You guys are taking in 5 million kilowatt hours annually with an electric bill of 621,000. We just did some really brief solar analysis, did some layouts to see what we could fit just on the roof. I'm not saying we'd have to do it that way. And just taking a quick look at it, it's a solar facility on the rooftop of Island Coast. You can offset your usage by 40%, which means we could provide 40% of the power at a predetermined rate, so you're not paying it out of the grid pricing. There's different ways to do it. There's a lot of land around it that we can look at. There's parking lots, but this is just kind of like point 1 on analysis.
There is definitely another parcel up there on the inside of that greater circle. Next to it, there's a City of Cape Coral parcel, and there's another Lee County parcel. So, there's a lot of hesitation in Florida because of hurricanes to put solar on the roof. There's, I would say it's at least a 10-acre parcel that's within 100 yards of that, maybe
And that would be ideal. And I think it's information like that that we want to work with this team on, because there's so many different ways to evaluate how you would want to approach it. And the whole goal is just what makes the most sense, what's the biggest bang for the buck, right? What brings the most value to the school. And ground mounts, a couple acre lot, 10 acre lot, you could fit most of the consumption for, the school on a lot, more than you could get with a rooftop. Plus, it's easier to maintain, it's out of the way, if you have to do a roof repair, you're not worried about peeling panels off and things like that. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Carports are another very popular one. There's a lot of parking lots in Florida, a lot of flat space, so, and also very economical. Yeah, and I think this is just kind of it, just the ask. We would like to work with you guys to perform due diligence across the whole entire portfolio. We want to collaborate with your leadership team, with the school board, with whoever would want to be involved, work with the staff at each facility. Our goal would be to develop a series of options that you could review, project the project sizes, the energy offset, the cost savings over 15, 20, 30 years. And then we would like to present our findings to, the advisory committee or the school board, or whatever the next steps would be from your guys' perspective. And why us, local? We've got kids that attend the schools. We know the area. We know, we've got great business partners and folks like H2R. We have a tremendous amount of experience in design and development. We do have a really solid track record, and we're growing that track record, I think, by the day. We work with some of the most difficult projects, and we've had a great successful run with those. We do want to create opportunity through savings. When I say that, there's a lot of things that could come if you guys had more money, right? You could advance, another building. You could expand your teaching staff. You could provide more technology to the students. You could think of probably, about everybody in here could think of 5 things they would do if they had more money. And what we want to do is assist in creating those opportunities, or at least presenting where you could save some money so that you could use it for a way that you think is more important than, putting it towards electricity. And with that, one of the biggest things that's come is the first portfolio we developed was with Penn State. And it was just really cool because they did all these learning centers. They had engineers involved, what seeds get planted, what type of production rates can you get. All of these projects are monitored and maintained through cloud systems, so the students can gain access to it. You can create learning seminars around it. Students can interact with them to a certain point. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn and expand, not only through just cost savings, but through the basic technology itself. And then the way that we operate is we like to be a good partner. We want to work hand in hand. I mean, yes, it's a business deal for us, but the whole goal is for, the portfolio to move forward, the projects to work, and for you all to save money. And then, the last thing I always throw in there is not everybody recognizes that solar works yet, but it really does work. They're bankable projects. Chase buys them, BP buys them. So the technology's really come a long way, and you do have to do 30-year contracts with a lot of these for the bigger companies. And you have to be within 7% accuracy over the duration of that 30 years, or you get financial penalties. So not only does it work, but it works accurately. I think that's really it.
I have questions.
Yeah.
So, you say that offset the initial investment for a system like this for school is 7 to 8 years. Now, that is to pay the initial investment.
Correct.
But I'm sure that there's a point on the life of the system where you have to maintain, change batteries, change panels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what's a realistic time? Because I'm sure that the battery life is for 10 years, so you have a major investment coming to the project, that 10 years life. So how long then it takes to offset that second investment?
Sure, and I would say that when you do a 68-year return calculation and you're looking to finance a project, you include maintenance budgets, equipment replacements. I mean, you're ballparking, but you're including some of that cost that you're getting out of your predictive modeling and the years that the solar system has been running. Additionally, the system that we'd be looking at here don't necessarily have to have batteries. I mean,
whatever is the technology, yeah.
So, I mean, the batteries are new, I would say, as far as actually being functional and deployed on a commercial grade like this. But yeah, a lot of that's built into that financing model. And you'd want to have, costs set aside for those types of maintenance items. use. I mean, you have insurance on the system, so if there's a major hurricane or random hail event or something that would damage a bunch of the panels, I think you have insurance that would kick in and carry that. But additionally, a lot of the schools that we work on don't self-fund. They work with an energy partner, and really all you do is establish a contract. Instead of having a contract with FPL, you have a contract with us. And we give you a 30 or 15-year, whatever fits into the way that you can budget, allocate, and plan. And you know what the price of electricity is gonna be this year and 10 years from now.
And do you warranty, you or any other company that's solar, but to warranty certain amount of savings? You do like a feasibility study over 30 years of the life of the system that will tell the school district, okay, this is my case study, this is the school I wanna do, this is the savings that you're gonna have within the next 30 years of the
Exactly
life
right.
of the system?
Yep, and that's where it comes into, let's just take, for example, the Penn State project. That was actually a virtual project, so it wasn't located on Penn State's campus, but in Pennsylvania, you can buy solar power from a remote source, right? So it's like a weir gate going into a stream. You know, we send all the power in, but we count how much power goes in, and Penn State gets the credit for that. With that, there's a predictive model that's put forward into the power purchase agreement or the contract with them. And that contract states how much power we will generate. And there is some fluff in there, but it's about 5 to 7%. We have to deliver 93% of the power that we've guaranteed in that contract. If it slips below, let's say it's a really, I mean, solar is subject to weather. So let's say it's a really cloudy year, or there's massive amounts of snowfall, or whatever it is that, you know. If we fall short of that goal, there's financial penalties to compensate the contract holders, that those additional costs don't sit on your books.
But if you fall short, how are we gonna supplement the short?
Well, you still have grid power.
But don't you have, you're not over engineering the system, so you're producing 100%, say 20% over contract, as opposed to a 7% shortfall?
So it depends. If we were doing something like a ground mount with a 20 megawatt AC interconnection position, I would design and purchase enough land to overshoot by, 5 megawatts or something.
Okay.
When you're talking about a school, we might be restricted on how much area we can actually use to produce. So there's no guarantee that we can even, one, offset 100%, or two, oversize it to carry some of those. You are absolutely right. But in this situation, since we're not designing to a queue position, we're fitting a design in a certain geography that already exists, or geometry that already exists. It's hard for us to say we're gonna be able to shoot over. So that's part of, the analysis that we do is free. We just wanna come out here and do it and present options to you guys. And that is one of the things we can look at. We will put as much solar as we can out there. But, even looking at the Island Coast School, if we just use the rooftop, let's just hypothetically say that's what you wanted to look at, we can only produce 40% of the current capacity that you already use. So we could predict the savings on that 40% and project out, but given that restricted area that we have to work in, we can't make more area like we would on a ground mount.
Let's go back to that slide on and close.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is on 40% saving in energy. So we still have to buy 60% for that meal.
With this, yeah, if you wanted to look at carports or using the adjacent lot, that number could certainly go up. But this was, we found that
Which option you financing this, that's under option 3?
this, so this is just analysis. I mean, we would put a cost to the system size, and if you wanted to self-fund or if you wanted to finance, this is just the analysis on the anticipated energy production.
How many acres do we need to buy to finance, to provide 100%?
I'd say here you're
The
looking,
rooftop one, you have rooftop units, so you're gonna reduce some.
Yeah.
From the new panel, you have your path that has to be taken over. So there's a lot of, that 4% probably is gonna drop to like 25 to 30% by the time you finish up with oil and
right, yeah, it could be.
right?
So
So how many acres do we need?
it's 5 acres in there. So you got
5 acres.
You need 25
megawatts. And how many megawatts do we need for this one?
I think 100% offset, you shoot for 5, I guess.
So we need 25 acres.
Do you have any project in Florida where you have to deal with hurricane codes and shelter situations?
Yeah, there's a ton of research done and projects here. They're mostly residential ones. Just be given the third-party
They are
development in Florida,
shelters,
because
so-
that feels unrelenting power has been a challenge. But it's really exciting to be able to present some stuff more locally and why we had to expand all over the map. But yeah, the design codes, everything that will be designed, presented will be structurally sound, sealed. There's hurricane ratings, and this comes down to as well, there likely is gonna be some concern of us, like, impacting the roof, we might have to do penetrations to meet hurricane codes. So, there's things to consider, it's definitely all within the design parameters, particularly since the buildings don't get to be multiple stories high. If the buildings are 4 stories plus, we wouldn't present rooftop options. But yeah, there's projects here locally, and there's plenty of design capacity around, the hurricane required winds.
Personally, I really don't like, when they put a
Yeah,
It's in Southwest Florida.
yeah, totally understandable. And I think here, Lee County, you guys are in a unique position that you have land. You go up to New Jersey, you barely have a parking lot.
When they're doing the batteries, you get involved with the finance with those, so that like if you know how it's like, it's always still connected to the grid.
Right.
But if you can feed it back to a like if you're populating more than you use, which we wouldn't be for a school probably. But if there was a shelter situation where like some of the schools we have to have as shelters, so then that's a different nightmare. But it's like, would that be beneficial to the schools that have to also double as shelters?
It absolutely would, and the reason is, solar's kind of, I find strange, it was weird when I got into the industry, that it works this way, but without some sort of repower back to the inverters, they don't turn on, which means if you're on an island and the grid goes down, you don't have a battery, you have no way of synchronizing your inverters, there's no way to use the solar that you get. So I think in this situation where you would have schools that were gonna be required for sheltering, battery systems would be great. And some new legislation has come out under the Biden administration, which has actually extended the ITC credit to batteries, which makes them much more financeable. But before that was one of the big holdbacks, they didn't count, so that you don't get that tax credit. But could totally be included in the package, and battery design is something we're starting to deploy in a lot of different
As
ways.
opposed like for backup generators and all that.
All that stuff, yeah, and the technology is increasing like everything else, so there's thought that, within a couple of years, natural gas peaker plants are gonna be a thing in the past, because just using more batteries is cheaper and more steady.
Are you guys working directly with the panel manufacturers, the equipment manufacturers?
We don't have
Or are you more
any,
in consulting mode?
yeah, so we procure panels, we do that usually through a financial partner with Market Reach. And the role that we like to play is we do the design, the due diligence, all of the permitting work, and all of the management. But we like to kind of be like a matchmaker. We would go to market for, let's just say, Lee County Schools, and we would find the best financial suitor that fits the needs of this portfolio the most. Is that, somebody that can be the owner operator? Is it just financing? We like to, one of the nice parts of our, placement in the industry is we work with all of the bigs and the bads, and that gives us access to that kind of global reach as far as procurement, because module procurement will be one of the largest burn items here. So if you can marry with somebody that's got pretty good global reach, you can get a really good price. And that's, part that we would work with you guys on, kind of being the
Well, that is
matchmaker.
something you do.
Yeah, we don't necessarily do it ourselves, we would partner.
Personally.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now.
Yeah. That gives us flexibility too. I mean, a lot of people can only come in with one.
Yeah, I'm married to one company.
Yeah, they've got a fastball and that's it. We can alter the pitches as we need.
What's the cost for the solar panels?
The actual panels,
Yeah,
the panels themselves are just like a system like
it's
this.
the whole system. Installed, ready to go.
It's if you're doing a one-off, it's gonna be more expensive, maybe $2 to $2.25 a watt. If you do a bundle of projects and you can expand your purchasing power, you can drive that down. I can tell you that, the ground mount systems that we've been working on, which are, 200 acres plus. A couple of years ago, those were about $1.25 a watt, and now they're 84 cents is about the going rate. So pricing's dropping pretty dramatically.
So you did a study, a preliminary study using that school as a base. What is your projected investment to do something like that? What is the
Yeah, I'd say it's
projected
about,
cost?
yeah, it's probably about $4 million.
$4 million?
Investment, maybe five, depending on, what type of system we have.
That's to purchase the system or to get it
That's
installed and
everything,
functioning?
that's permitting, system running. Yeah,
Up and running?
And now, I'm sorry, in your analysis, you did a 6 to 8 year return, right?
it's ballpark, yeah, I mean, we would actually have
I'm
to.
not hoping to, I'm just
Right,
saying.
yeah.
So anything that's brand new, like a car, anything that's mechanical, has a curve in it.
Mhm.
Brand new, we really don't have to touch it. If we get to the midpoint, it requires more maintenance. If we get 75% through,
Yeah,
we may be replacing stuff.
yeah.
So how is that factored into your return?
Most of the parts that you're gonna look to replace outside of some major weather event, which will be covered by insurance, are things like the inverters, are probably, and we budget for that. You usually put a 10-year replacement on your inverters in your original budget. And then, there's warranties as well, if equipment fails. So everything will come, like the racking comes with a 25-year warranty, I think the inverters come with a 10-year warranty, would depend on manufacturers. And these are things too, I mean, in a situation like this, if you guys are gonna put multiple schools on, you have some purchasing power, you have some say, you can push suppliers to provide you better coverage, and we would work with you to do that. But yeah, I'd say 10 years you're probably doing some maintenance, but the real increase in efficiency is the modules don't degrade like they used to. I mean, they still degrade, and we predictably model that, but they don't degrade to the point where they're no longer functioning. I mean, even at a 30-year to a 35-year model, we've got an energy contract in Ohio, you're still banking on 88% of that module functioning. So, I mean, the systems they're pretty, they're like a good person to do, they're pretty well maintained.
Let me ask you, I just, don't take me wrong, I think solar is a great system, okay?
Me
But
too.
I don't get the numbers. You say that a system like this, I'm gonna go to a low number, $4 million, and it will cover 40%. That is
Yeah.
less than $600,000 a year. 40% of that is 240.
Yeah.
So to cover $4 million, I need 16 years.
Yeah,
Not
if
six.
that was the
So
situation.
that's what I'm trying to say, it will take me 16 years to offset the cost of the installation. And in 16 years, I still have maintenance, replacement, et cetera, so it might take me 20 years, so
Right,
something doesn't add up.
Don't hold me to this, quick Google image thing. One, this system's probably oversized for what we would actually look to budget to maximize the offset. So would we invest with this kind of return on that system? So probably not. We would design something more efficient, and maybe that price point even does come down. But I can say that when we're looking at a portfolio, we're actually digging into the project, the return usually doesn't go out past 8 years. And that's a good cash invest. If you're looking to work with somebody that's going to finance it, they may plot that return out over a longer period of time. Plus, the other thing that you're not calculating in there that we would consider is, that's a purchase price. There's a 30%, 26% tax credit that goes into it. There's a whole bunch of other financial means and methods that kind of come into play when you're doing a full-fledged financial model, which is a pretty in-depth exercise. This is just a, quick way to show how it's designed.
More than 16.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be 16, we've never been a part of a project that. And we did analysis for all the head pins and bowlands. And we were gonna save, I think, Pat, like $2 million over 10 years or something like that, and the system paid for itself in 6. So when we really dig into design and we really start putting price into it, it'd be, a lot more
Is
cleaned
this
up
school
than just.
under thermal energy storage? Do they have thermal storage or something? Or ground power?
I have no idea.
I can't hear.
Huh?
I can't hear, I don't hear one, something about voltage.
Any of the schools have thermal storage.
I'm
No,
not
they
aware of
don't.
that. I think
So,
they do.
that's why,
think so.
that's why you paid $15 million worth of coverage.
It could be, and all we have is the single line, we don't know, I mean, that's one of the things, if we can get people to actually dig in and look at the bills and work with the systems and see the usage. I mean, there's demand charges we may not be able to get rid of, there's could be other things that are playing in here. So, we would look deep into, where the fees are coming from and how to best offset that and then present a cost savings plan. And just looking at a single line item, I don't know how that's coming together. And I was guessing at the consumption based on the kilowatt hours, but I could not be, calculate it.
This would be a great add-on to that vocational school that's being looked at right now,
Yeah,
especially for the kids.
and we've done, like with BP, or with Penn State, we did intern programs, it's connected to the contract, and, create Penn State interns throughout, the first 10 years of the contract. We would certainly work locally I mean, I think the educational aspects of this are just incredible. And, you know, we do have to make this pitch. I go to a lot of town halls, I go to a lot of small towns, a lot of VFWs to try to gain support for projects. And one of the things that has really come out is, you know, things are changing, dynamics are changing, job market's changing. And, you know, one of the true aspects of solar work is, yeah, the projects might be a finite time that you're on site, but they're really building careers. And this technology isn't going away. It's only getting more popular. Yeah. So you can build a path forward. And I don't know what my son's gonna do, but if he was electrician age, I would be recommending it pretty dramatically at this point. But yeah. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, very enlightening.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
All right, so anyone has any good of order?
Should we consider as a committee, trying to get an authorization to engage them, to get prototypes and to get,
Their hash rate's changing there. I mean, this hash rate thing coming up for 50% is not a joke. It wasn't something I dreamed about. It's actual fact by June, 50%, not 30, energy efficiency. And any baseline you currently have in the discussion, or your federal money's not gonna come. It's that simple.
But that's that example that he gave us is based on using the rooftop.
Well, the thing of it is,
You don't have a
who will use
25
it? I mean,
acres.
look, all you make is a sail. Anything flat with a wind is a sail.
You're gonna have a hard time with the maintenance guys dissecting all of
It's,
that.
Scott, well, I can hear Scott.
Yeah.
I can hear him. But there are a couple of things. First of all, every new school in the county has to be designed as a shelter. 50% of the school has to be a shelter, and that has to meet ICC 500. When you do ICC 500, forget about putting a panel on the roof.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
So, because it's not gonna meet code, there's no way to make it meet code.
I got it.
So you need land if you
Okay.
want to put panels.
So in procurement, they need to start allocating more funding for more land.
Right.
This is something that's not gonna stop. Florida Power Line's not gonna say, hey, you guys are real good, you pay your bill every month, dog, here's a box of cookies.
I mean,
What they're gonna say to you is, you got money, you got tax issues, give us our due.
What I'm trying to say is there are a lot of alternative energies. There are a lot of ways to produce power in an alternative way. I don't know if solar is the best
We
option
can't
for
dam it,
Florida or
it's a
not.
river, it's not high enough.
Well, I don't know if solar, you have an ocean, I don't know if solar is the best or not. What I'm trying to say is, we as a committee have the ability to hear different ideas and do recommendations,
Sure.
but not to, we don't have the power to engage anybody to do any particular job. So, I think it's super valuable because for a lot of us who work in real projects, this is something that we can incorporate in our projects when we work with a school district and propose it as it's a great idea. But I don't think as a committee we have the power to say, well, we think that the school district should do this or should do that.
no, that
No,
would be
no.
for the school board.
It would be a recommendation. The way I would approach this, and I'm basically an outsider, is as a committee, recommend to the school board, this is something needs to be reviewed for future costs. It's not gonna get any smaller. You got like 20 or 30,000 kids coming over here in the next 6 months, who's gonna pay for that? If the costs are just gonna go through the roof. You've gotta start looking at what we can do to reduce the cost of operating these buildings. It's that simple. If not, you have no money for teachers, you have no money for food, no money for lunches, nothing. It just doesn't work like that. So the idea of it is, as a committee, as taxpayers here in Lee County, we need to make recommendations to these guys back here, what they should be looking at as future costs, future reductions within the system. Not, oh, we want you to do this, we have no power for that, but what we do have is our opinion. And as a committee, if it's, I agree or I don't agree, we need to voice that opinion to them, because you people are going to do the design. You know more about the energy in these buildings than I do. I don't build them, I don't design them, you people do. You know what goes into the walls, what goes into the floors, what goes into the foundations. If you say, I think I need a backfill of 8-foot tamped limestone in it before you put that footer in there, that's because that's what you do. They don't do that, and they rely on you for that opinion. That's how I see it. I know I do.
So I would say that if you made the recommendation to the board will turn around and direct staff to do what we're talking about here. That's how it would work.
I think we should wait for Scott to come in and give the way,
And I agree.
We don't have all the facts yet, we have just a couple slides
Sure.
and some numbers. I don't think I'm personally not ready to really give one recommendation before we get all the facts. And we need to hear from the maintenance guys. Okay, and if we don't have the land, so anything they do is just a waste of time.
The school board does have a lot of land.
Yeah, it's like contingent or.
They need a lot of schools too.
School.
Right, so, you know, if it was just Scott, we wouldn't be here. Because Scott is a great professional, he's the right person for the job. But I signed up for this time, each of us signed up for this time to help the school board and to help Scott find new things that we should be after. To be progressive and to be forward-thinking, not reactive. We are not gonna be able to do anything to react to inflation. That's definitely headed our way.
Well, I mean, don't misunderstand me, you know, we need to look for something to reduce the energy cost. It's just we don't have enough information to make any recommendations.
Well, that's exactly what we're asking for, right?
Let him maintain this facility,
Yeah.
he's not here to give us his professional.
So
It's
the
not just a
idea
design team.
of the question is, can we get the information that you're looking for? And
There's
that's what-
something
that's
else,
the question.
when you talk about the energy and the inflation, one of the biggest problems the school, this district has right now is the amount of old schools that don't meet the energy requirements regarding insulation and windows and materials. So besides the new energies and how to offset cost on the FPL bill, there's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen to the schools besides, okay, we can generate power in a cheaper way.
Sure, but we're not gonna be able to get Chase or some of these other giant companies to pay for that.
Of course not.
The energy stuff that we're talking about, we can get huge energy companies to help pay for that, to offset the future of inflation.
That's got money.
So,
The federal government's got
so
money.
let me chime in here since I'm on this board too.
Thank you.
Are you doing it right, Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, let me chime in a little bit so that, and I would encourage everybody to have a voice. So what you're asking is, because we talked about that, this gentleman brought over some paperwork, we looked at it, now he's done a presentation. And so we've kind of embraced his idea in terms of savings as relates to energy. And so what your ask is, let's continue this, perhaps put together something more specific and look at how it can possibly save us and not shut you down at this point, correct?
That's not good.
I mean, I think that's fair.
Well, at the beginning of the year, we talked about going into energy, you know, like,
Yeah,
we talked
I
about
think
going
that's
into
fair.
energy savings, so this is just a small part of it.
Yes.
It's not the part of it, it's just a very small grasp of what we're looking at.
And he said a magic word earlier, I don't know if you heard it.
Money?
No, he said that, it would be free. You didn't hear that? FREE?
I don't, the word stops right here this year. This one doesn't work, it stops right there when you say free.
I do think it would be good if Daniel did have a list of the restrictions, like you were saying, the hurricane shelter and stuff like that too. If someone were to put a list of roadblocks that, or restrictions that would, prevent him from doing as much on the roof or something like that too. Just him knowing what those are
Right.
would benefit that study as well.
Yeah, but even on the roofs, I can just see the maintenance guys probably doing it. I mean, cause that's the common.
Can I ask a general question here, if you guys don't mind? I mean, I've kind of traveled all over the world, so I just got a curious case of maintenance. How does that work in this county? I mean, you hire,
Right there.
they hire maintenance, they put a maintenance.
The way you-
Right.
There is the right
We
word.
don't want to create, additional work for them, that's what we're saying.
Okay, so what do they do now?
They maintain
They
the building.
maintain. Okay,
So things, so every day at 93 or 90 Harvard Middle Schools, things break, things need to be fixed. Those schools put in work orders.
Right.
Those guys go out and fix them.
bingo.
Yes.
So if I put an inverter in there of say 2 gigawatts, maintenance has to go find someone to repair it, right?
But no, but we're saying no.
No what?
They have a contract to do
No,
that.
I'm not talking about that. I've heard this maintenance deal several times over, they're trying to figure out how they play into this construction. I
That's
mean,
something that has to be.
So everything you build,
yeah.
they have to maintain. So as you continue building, they have more stuff to maintain. So every time you add more stuff, we would need to add more maintenance workers, add more.
People to fix it, right?
Fix it, correct. So at some,
I'm
yeah.
just kind of.
Is there?
No, I mean, no, but that's just, no, I think the way you kind of like, there's no maintenance cost when, hey, these guys have to fix these buildings on a daily basis, things break. She talked about the age of these buildings. We have I think my maintenance staff is about 150 men and women every day out there fixing these schools. So it's and then when you talk about adding solar panels on the top of the roofs, now you're adding more and more for them to manage and more of them to maintain. So it's just something to consider.
And also, in the construction industry, you really don't wanna be touching those roofs. As soon as you cut into it, whoever did the roof, that warranty goes away.
Now,
That's just a scenario that you brought forward.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, he would have to evaluate what is the best scenario for each school
Sure.
on where to put the solar panels.
Right.
You know, so we got a roof problem and we've got a space problem on the ground because the campuses don't have room to give you 1 acre, let alone 25 acres to put a solar panel field in, existing schools. So if something like this is implemented through the board, then when they go buy property, they start looking for property that's a little bit bigger than what they would normally purchase for a school, so that they could, if everybody works out and contracts are signed, all that kind of good stuff, then you have the room to put solar panels on the ground. But it's a process.
Right.
And you know, your company or whatever, you know, whoever is gonna be involved in the discussion, whether it's solar panel or some other kind of energy savings or any other kind of savings, you know, that could come to the school district, they need to sit down and go through the direction, go through the exercises. Is it worth it? Is it not? And then move forward.
Right, and then there was I'm sorry, but there was a discussion last time, that in every school, there's some area, and it's not on the building, that's only being used for parking. I think somebody brought that up, putting solar panels in the parking lot, making it covered parking. That would actually have two, really good ways to do it. You get your panels there and you get covered as well.
Sure, you can roof shade the stadiums. I mean, there's a lot of variables, but
So I think this gentleman asking that we move to the next step of making a recommendation to essentially just look at what you're doing.
what I do is I throw it out in the public that we're looking for information on energy savings for the schools. This being one part of it.
Back to his statement, it's a free piece that they can provide the free services, right? Let's take, correct, I mean, not right.
No, yeah, I
You
mean,
said that one, right?
yeah,
So you take that Island Coast site, get rid of that, and forget about the roof, because we're never gonna sell it. I will not put anything on my
no,
roof.
we get anybody to back you on.
So,
but there's also the playgrounds. I mean,
the
Lewis
law
Elementary
covers it.
spent $400,000 to shade kids
I'm
plastic.
okay with
We understand.
we authorize them or make a recommendation to at least start the process by hand taking one of the worst schools that we have, that we consume a lot of energy, looks like $50 million, that's a lot of money. Take that aerial map, show us that how much room we have to fit those panels, and parking lot, come in with the cost analysis, how much it's gonna cost me to build those, shades, parking shade, shelters, whatever, the stadium roof, and let's see if it's worth it. See what the number, how many lots you can develop. But now, you're using the biggest area of the school, which is the roof. We eliminate that. So you're not 40% anymore, I mean, that's like
Yeah,
10%, I don't know.
what would you be without the roof?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, we only looked at the roof, so if we wanna evaluate the parking areas, there is land adjacent to Island Coast.
But then you have to include all the costs,
Yeah.
not just the panel, because you're gonna build the column, you're gonna build the structure.
And
You're
it,
gonna lose parking lot, the spaces, because now you have to have a column to between the spaces. So there's all that need to be considered.
and I think the only recommendation I would make, other than just authorizing us to look at one school, is the analysis is free and there is cost savings if the portfolio is bigger and we have more buying power. So if we're gonna go down the road of analysis, I would prefer just to look at everything, compare LCEC to FPL.
Riverdale was four
And
man.
just let us tell you what we think, your decision in the end, is we want to do the fact finding and present you with options. And it could be one school, 3 schools, whatever you want to move forward with, whatever makes financial sense, whatever it
I
seems.
think Riverdale was four
You don't even need permission from the board to do that.
No, not for analysis, no.
No.
Riverdale was four.
I mean, I guess the only thing they would obviously need to get some data and
Yeah.
provide
You
information.
just need
How
access.
much
341,000.
for the year?
How much? I'm sorry, what was it?
341, 15620.
300?
Oh, sorry, got my numbers mixed up. Sorry. Good thing I went in bank.
What is that number?
That's the, that was the annual energy bills for Riverdale High School.
For which school?
Riverdale.
Hey, I'm gonna say, man, you keep it going.
Well, I can
Sure.
we're getting ready to renovate, so.
And you're gonna make some, it's not the impact on the savings there.
So,
The way I'm-
But I like it for one,
What
one
about-
school,
what about-
say they buy land.
make a recommendation for our staff to start having this conversation with those private companies and come out, engage them to do analysis on one of the schools and bring it back to the committee with their analysis or final data or information. I think.
So, I mean, it sounds like
I mean, that's pretty simple.
from the discussion, it sounds like, if someone desires to make a motion and then the committee could vote on it, whether they would want, the board to request staff engage with the company for this free analysis, which would, correct me if I'm wrong, more just that, us giving you data for you to go do your analysis. I think that would be the.
As long as we comply with the procurement.
Correct, so, once this analysis, let's say this analysis is complete and we
It may not
review it, any contractually would have to go through whatever procurement process.
Well, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Morgan already said that we can recommend that they do it for free. We don't need to go through the board or anybody. What we would have to do is take whatever analysis we ask them to do as a group, review it, and then say, this sounds like a really great idea. Let's take it to the next level, which would be to recommend it to the board to take action on it, or say, no, this just doesn't make any sense.
100% correct, and my point is, if you were to recommend that future action would have to go through the procurement process.
Right, which is down the road, so I mean, you tell us, you're the expert, you tell us, you gave us and I, obviously understanding time and money and everything else, you gave us an example of one school. So you know what we're thinking, you know what we're looking at. What is your recommendation to get us to go to the next step, I guess? Is it studying more schools
Definitely,
in more detail?
definitely.
And, okay, so then what kind of information would you need?
Well, we want to make a motion as our committee to, like, if this is something we want, how we never have a thing that we want to do every year? Every year when Ryan says, what do we want to do? And everybody just deer in headlights doesn't do it.
Not this year, well, we do have things, but.
No, I know, but it's like, if that might wanna be a purpose of what we investigate for the next couple months, while, we don't really have an agenda of something that we wanna give to the board. So, perhaps that is the motion, and then, yes, you just, as like a quick thing, did whatever was like the most consumption school.
Yeah, just,
Well, it's like, if there's even if it's a newer school that would be more of a beneficial, like, guinea pig to look at, like, if it has better land or if it has better whatever, if like, even if you have like a school that's a better conditioned school that could even like get itself cleared off, it's like, that would save the district money. Like, it doesn't have to be like the crappiest school.
Exactly.
I feel like.
You're gonna give me the crap.
I know, no, I grew up in the West.
If you take the roof component out of the project, the best is analyze one of the new schools. Because like Dana says, you can say, okay, this is a project for future, so the school district now can find the right land, the piece of land that will accommodate the new school, the prototype, whatever it is. And also the amount of acreage that you need for the solar panels. So it's gonna be way easier to start from scratch with the new projects than go and revisit Tropic Isle that doesn't have an extra square foot in the entire
But
site to put a
that-
solar
I really
panel.
would like to entertain again, listen, we have an opportunity now for someone to come in and do analysis.
Yeah,
for one of
that
the
would be
schools.
great.
My question,
So I'm-
my question, are we authorized to make a recommendation for our staff to engage the consultant? Does it have to go to the board?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go
Yeah, we
through
used
the
to do
board.
it.
Make a motion.
Alright, so I'd like to make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
The motion is. Let me tell you what the motion. The motion is to engage, to ask the staff to work with Bow Environmental, to engage the staff to analyze enough schools. I don't know if it should be all of them or 10, but enough schools to make an impact on the energy consumption.
But before we make that motion, I wanna make sure that our staff refer back to the procurement policy and see if they can.
This has nothing to do with superintendent's.
But it's, I mean, and we can, like, I work with Collie King, I can't go just hire anybody.
We're not hiring.
You're not gonna
Even
know.
for free, for small contract,
We're
I
not
have
hiring.
to go through procurement.
If as a committee, we want to buddy up with somebody that can help us put together,
Okay.
that's what we're doing. It's like none of us on this committee have the background to do this. If you were on the committee, game on, so next year do that, you know, but it's, no, but I mean, if we, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, I mean, it's like, if, I think the motion needs to be that like, if that's something that we want to, as a committee,
I think so.
put together, but then you're a public person, so we're asking for you to come back. And then we would probably need to have Scott or whatever involved with like, hey, here are some school, like you tell us what you need,
Yeah.
and then we, but like if that's something we do as a committee.
Listen, if this committee votes and says they want staff to work with this company to
Right.
do this analysis, which is free.
Yeah.
No contractual obligations, we would act.
Right.
I'll second my motion.
So
I'll
that
second
is,
the motion.
okay, that is the motion.
Okay.
No, but it's, in your motion though, do we not need to get some definition as to what he's gonna do?
I think that's gonna be up to Scott. I think staff is gonna say,
Okay.
you know,
I think do conduct a free analysis, I think we can go from there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the motion?
As long as-
Can I,
I haven't heard the motion yet.
yeah, I just need to have the motion stated for the minutes.
Should I try
As long
again?
as no
Yes, please.
obligation to
Repeat the
work in
motion.
future.
Yes.
Okay, did you hear him?
No,
He said.
As long as we have no obligation,
that's correct. We,
future obligation.
all right, so here's a motion. The committee is asking the staff to work with Bow Environmental on an analysis of multiple schools. Enough schools so that we have a big impact. And that means that we're engaging bigger partners for financing or bigger partners for panel purchasing.
Just stop,
Too much?
too much.
So, okay, so asking, the committee is asking
With free analysis.
for free analysis to work with Bow Environmental to work with the staff.
I
To bring to our committee.
Bring back to
Bring back
the.
again.
I mean, we're looking for information, basically, they're gathering information for this committee, is what we're asking.
Yep.
Okay.
I will second.
Question.
I second that one. Before I second.
Question.
No, we have
You ready to vote or you have a question?
Question. Let's prolong this a bit.
We're in discussion.
So,
That was your
Okay.
idea.
yes, and I agree, but I have a question and I want to bring this to the table. And if I'm wrong, check me. It matters not what condition the school is in. Solar should be a saving. no matter what the condition of the school, as relates to FPNL and LCEC, correct?
Yes.
So whatever you bring to the table, it's gonna show a savings. It will show, and this kind lady, if it's not a saving, she will point it out. So but on the real side, solar should be a saving no matter what the conditions are. It shouldn't matter.
It depends on the final analysis.
Yeah,
If
cost
the results
analysis
may come back and say, no,
Yeah,
you're
like
gonna end up paying
some
more.
schools might not be worth it at all,
Okay.
you know, and then and then others might, but then even if the school that does make a difference, if that helps offset the overall costs
It's a
to
plus.
the
Yeah,
district,
it's a plus.
yeah, you
So
know.
then my question then is this. If you have a solar panel and you have LPNL, same megawatts, which is gonna be cheaper to do? I mean,
The goal would be, so let's just say you go down the road, we do the analysis, you go down the road of working with somebody that's gonna finance it. You would enter into a contract with like a different energy company that's not FPNL, would be, let's say, Go Renewables. That contract wouldn't make sense if the power was more expensive. And I think what we're seeing in solar more than anything is there is usually a targeted 15 to 20% savings on your energy bill as stands, but really the
100%?
savings come.
Is it across the board? Not to cut you off. I just wanna get right to the quick of it.
Right.
Is solar cheaper than electric?
Depends what your investment cost is. You can't sit here and just say to yourself, okay, we live in a 150-mile-an-hour wind zone right now, according to the building department, right? So you can't just go out here and build a stick frame house and say, well, here it is. It has to comply to a certain wind speed, and depending on where these schools are located.
Okay, so.
Construction method, hold it.
Uh,
So right now, I'm looking at cost analysis, is how much it's gonna cost me to install that solar? The basic foundation of it. If it's gonna cost me $1 million for one panel, why would I put it in?
That's part of his analysis.
That's what I'm saying, so that's what we're looking at, is to see what that cost analysis is, because some of these schools, yeah, you can put a panel in there and save money, but what does it cost you to put it in?
That's right, and that's, which is the point that I'm driving.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Please make sure you come back with something that says, okay, that shows that it's gonna be cheaper all the way around from your installation, to the time frame, before the units need to be, maintained and all of the above.
Well, I can promise you, we'll come back and tell you what it costs.
Okay,
And if that's cheaper, then that's a huge win.
got it, okay.
And I can say that we haven't had access to all the data that we would want. There's a pretty robust checklist, there's plans, there's energy bills, there's things we're gonna wanna do. We're probably gonna come out and inspect the electrical equipment on site to see what kind of ties and connections we would be making. We'll coordinate with the local utilities at LCEC and FPL. We'll review their metering charges, so if we are over producing at certain times of the year, there's actually a rollback and a payback that could be applicable to get. We'll put all that into the analysis, and at the end of the day, if solar's cheaper, then you guys will know. If not, then, you know, I wasted 6 months. But historically, it's been cheaper. And the cheapest PPA rates, the cheapest power contracts in America are solar. There's a 1.8 cent PPA in Texas, that's a solar project. It's the cheapest power being produced right now. So there is that potential, but we have to dig into the details and see where we shake out.
And your analysis will say, okay, listen, you don't have enough land, you don't have enough parking, you need to purchase so many acres, and then you're gonna do,
Right. We'll do it a bunch of different ways, and one thing we could do is just look at what we've got, and let's say you just offset 30% of your current power bill, but if that projects out as $1 million worth of savings over 15 years, then you save $1 million. And that's where I think, you know, solar and these types of contracts really do protect things like the school district, is you can put in, I mean, right now with FPL, you don't know what you're paying for power use, right? You don't know what you're paying for 2 years. Another hurricane hits and they increase the grid hardening program, they wanna commit $2 billion annually, that all comes from us, right? They rate base everything. If they wanna make more money, they spend more money, then we pay more money. But if you get through an agreement through a solar company that could stand for 15 years, you'll know now in 2036 exactly what you're paying for power, and you can budget to that. You can use the savings to fund, you know, what I would say more important programs for school district other than buying it.
I'm gonna help out Robert.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, we have a second,
Second.
Let's vote.
so
Are we ready?
Who seconded it?
We've had open floor for a long time.
Okay, thanks. I thought he was joking
So they
before.
were ready to vote.
I think we need to vote so that we respect everybody's hour.
Yeah, the hour
They
that
take
they're-
them over.
So,
All right, it's time now, it's
because we can always ask you more questions when it comes
What type
back.
of vote we're doing?
No, vote on the
Oh, we're
motion.
gonna vote
A vote on the motion,
on the
right?
motion.
Right. So, everybody in favor, raise your hand, I'm gonna help.
Wait a minute.
Oh, it's recorded, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Yay.
Great presentation.
Good work, team.
So, I don't have the agenda.
So,
So you know me.
So for the good of the order, does anybody have, I'm not gonna go around the room and ask everybody. Robert, I don't mean to step on your
no, I
toes.
thought we did good award, did we?
No, we started here, and now we gotta run the table.
Yeah,
I have 2 questions for the board member, please.
go ahead.
Quad A, is there any plan to relocate it to the east zone? Since the plans have already been purchased and
I
sort of
think,
material.
yeah,
Quad A, moving it from this area to the east zone.
no, I'm not familiar.
No, and no, I would say that right now, nothing.
But is there any discussion to?
Oh, absolutely, there will be. I mean, we need the seats, so
Sure.
planning will be making a recommendation.
Furthering down that rabbit hole, ESSER 3, has there been any kind of allocation of funds yet on that? Because after looking at the nomenclature in the bill, there are 2 areas, Area 2P and Area 2O, or Activity 2O and 2P. It indicates construction-related air purification, ionization, new controls, things like that.
So I don't know, ESSER, at that level. I do know that we spend in anticipation of getting the ESSER funds from the government. So we follow, if there are opportunities for us to invest in anything, we are looking to do that. We are writing the proposal and we are spending the money. But the way it works is we don't wait for the grant to get the money, we spend the money and the grant reimburses us for the money.
And I'm sorry, I didn't answer your first question a little better, I understand it now. So where we are with that is, we have our planning department is basically working with, one of our vendors to, rerun the numbers, if you will, for, in terms of, where our students are, where our schools are, where our current properties we own are, and recommend to us where we need to, move this, go with for the
Sure,
next.
because it would make sense for money you spent to deal with the performance, at least try and make an attempt to put it somewhere where it could still be used.
Correct,
We need the seats.
correct, we need to see.
You own the plans, that building could work over off the property of 82.
So I think once we decide where each school needs to be, and then you can kind of decide based on the property, all right, does our prototype fit there and things of that nature. So those discussions are in the works.
Now, if you want specific answers to your questions, I can put you in touch with staff who can answer those questions. Would you like that?
ESSER 3, yes, I would.
Okay.
While she's doing that, does anybody else have any questions? Or comments good for the order? I make a recommendation, we adjourn.
Specifically,
Bobby, second that?
you said you had questions.
We're glad you stayed. That's fine. Meeting adjourned.
Activity.